Hi, everyone. Welcome to my kitchen. You are in the kitchen with KK. I'm Kimberly Knox, and I'm creator of the bioenergetic cooking method. Today, we're going to be making something that's not in the cookbook. I grew up baking cookies. I needed extra comfort. I loved making cookies, and so does everyone else, right? We love a nice, good cookie. So we're going to be making, these are my ginger snap tea cookies. Delicious. I actually love them with my new chocolate vegan gelato. So I'm going to show you how to make them just like that. And then I'm also going to make them as a date pinwheel, which is inspired by my grandmother because she used to make date pinwheel cookies. So with cooking and cookies, I had to reteach myself how to make gluten-free snacks that were lower glycemic, no refined sugars, no inflammatory flours. And, you know, it was different for me. My very first recipe was banana bread, but in the book, you're going to find many different snack recipes because we need them. We need to feel good, but we need to turn to alternatives that are not creating so much inflammation in the body. So to get started, what are we using today? And this recipe was actually inspired by the medical medium. I've made changes to the way that I want to do them. We're going to be using some of sprouted rolled oats. You need to make sure that they're clean, certified GMO and gluten-free. Not all are. The sprouted ones, I tend to like this brand really well. We're going to put a cup of them into the food processor and blend it until it's all broken down. Recipe in my cookbook, the blueberry blizzard muffins. You're also going to use these oats as part of the base to give you some real substance. We're also going to be using cassava flour. So here, this makes a nice cookie. And it's going to be a little bit different than the almond flour, a little bit more rich in carbohydrates. We're only using 3/4 of a cup and a cup of the oats. And then we bind these flours together like the almond flour with arrowroot. So organic arrowroot is it stiffens up the dough without adding too many fillers and gums that you'll see. I don't use xanthan gum and other things like that. And then spices to die for. If you like your chai latte or those spices, we're using cardamom, we're using clove, nutmeg, cinnamon, and of course ginger. And then for the date filling, all I did was take some organic Medjool dates, and you just put them in a little saucepan with a little bit of water, warm them up, then put them in a little blender and create a little paste. You see, you don't add any sugar, don't add anything else. You can add some chopped up nuts to this, walnuts. We're going to spread it on some of the dough, then roll it and slice them. That's how you get the pinwheel. We're going to be adding a little bit of applesauce, a little bit of Vermont maple syrup, and then to get rid of, I used to cook with Crisco and all of the things with cookies, but I am learning different ways to use virgin organic coconut oil. This is the brand that I like to bake with. And so that is really it. So first of all, we're just going to be adding a cup. You definitely need to get yourself a food processor. I talk about it all the time. I talk about the tools you need in my cookbook, but I have found this KitchenAid food processor for me to be the best because it's got a nice wide opening so you can get stuff out of it. It's where I make my chocolate avocado mousse, the hug in a jar, my roasted garlic mashed cauliflower, lots of different things, my pestos, my creamy cashew garlic sauce, things like that. So we're going to give this a whirl. You want to let it spin for maybe about a minute or so, but we're going to pause so that you're not having to hear this, and then we'll come back and it'll be broken down. Okay, so our oats are broken down, and I prefer to break down the oats instead of buying oat flour for this and other recipes, because then you can use them for overnight oats and just regular oatmeal. You don't have to have a bunch of different flours around. Okay, so we're just gonna put those, we're gonna do a 1 bowl feature because back in the old days, I used to cream the butter, add in the sugar, put in the flours, sift everything. We're not going to do that. We don't need to do that. We're going to do one bowl recipe, which is so much easier. Then we're going to add 3/4 of a cup of the cassava flour, old school way. I just like to dip down in here and just use a knife, even off the top. So we have 3/4 of a cup of the cassava flour. It's just a yucca root. So beautiful. Now we're going to add the the arrowroot. Here we're going to add 1/3 of a cup of the arrowroot flour. Here we go. All right. I like to keep the flours in containers like this. It allows you to stack them, organize them, keep them fresh, and keep the tops from opening up or anything from spilling. And so next up, let's just get the baking soda in there, keeping with it, and then we'll add the spices. So we're going to use a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. And instead of, I use lemon juice, you'll see that in a lot of the recipes to help with the leavening, raising. They don't need to raise that much because this is like a smaller, crispy, harder cookie. But I don't care for the taste, honestly, of baking powder. So I get around it. Cardamom, ginger, so Ceylon, cinnamon, ground nutmeg, and did I miss anything? Cloves. Here we go. So we're going to use a 1/4 teaspoon of all of these, and then 1 teaspoon of the ground ginger. If you like a little bit more of one of the spices, play around a little. Cooking should be about being fearless and creative and having fun with the flavors. It's so nice to be able to smell everything when you are cooking. Cardamom, if you've not used it, delicious. It has a little bright. It smells a bit like lemon. So it's a really nice mix for this cookie. And then I love cinnamon. And to use a lot of it. And Ceylon cinnamon happens to be the most powerful. So it's preferred for cooking. You can use the regular cinnamon just to put on your apple slices. And then we want a full teaspoon of the ginger here. So went to nice big 1/2 teaspoons. We're going to give that a little whirl with a fork, and then we're going to add in all of the wet ingredients. So we'll be right back here. I gotta check the coconut oil. That's okay. So we were just tossing around everything here. And then, I love Williams Sonoma. Just, it's so nice to just go and buy some really good things that you're going to cook with, including this booze board, cutting board. So they have a whole set, obviously, of the measuring spoons, but I like the ones that are a little larger, 2 tablespoons. So here we go. We want to add in 2 tablespoons here. You can use the organic unsweetened. I'm using the cinnamon. It's unsweetened cinnamon. Got extra spice in there. And then we need a 1/4. It's melted somewhere here. Oh, here it is. This is melted coconut oil. I prefer this Nutiva brand for cooking. So we're going to add this in. And then we want a 1/4 of a cup of maple syrup. This is actually Vermont maple syrup that I've poured back into the shady maple farms, but it's from a family farm near our family in Vermont. And let me just check over here. Yeah, so here we go. Yeah, so dates and maple syrup, they're all excellent natural sweeteners because they have other nutrients in them that the body really recognizes. So it's not just a straight refined sugar where everything is stripped out and Much better. So we want to add in half a teaspoon. This is lemon juice, fresh squeezed. Adding that in there to the mix. I don't think I forgot anything. So we're just going to mix this up into, it should be a stiff type of dough because we're going to roll it out in between parchment paper. And to do the dates, and then we can just make it into little balls with our fingers for the little tea cookies. You see, you could even use molasses in this. I'll probably try with some molasses. It's not going to be as sweet. So let me just clean up. We're going to get out the parchment paper. We're going to give it a roll and get these babies going. Okay, so I did add a little bit of molasses, about 2 tablespoons. I drizzled it over because the amount of cassava flour and arrowroot were sufficient enough to make it really stiff, but I did want a cookie that was a little bit darker, okay? And Blackstrap molasses, not super sweet. It has lots of great iron, and so it's really good for, and I think I used to put it into my other ginger snap cookie recipe as well. So perfect. And that is a really good sweetener actually for your coffee in the fall or over a porridge or anything like that. So we're going to work in small batches. We're just going to take about maybe a third of this. You see, it's so easy to make into a ball. That way you know that it's a real stiff. So we're going to roll out for the date filling first and then cut with a sharp knife the you just put the ball in the center and I flatten it down. We're just going to kind of roll it into a rectangle. You can see this. And you can chill the dough before you start working with it. This is nice. It's pretty firm. You don't want it too slim, but you don't want it too thick. The parchment paper is perfect for checking it. And then just kind of squish it into alignment here. Simple, simple. When you use a parchment paper, you don't have to worry about having flour all over the place when you roll it out. So, yes, I use an abundance of white flour as a child. So now we're just going to spread some of the date filling in the center here. So now these are going to have a nice natural sweetness. Like I said, you can crush up some walnuts too. And then all we're going to do is roll this and then slice it. So let's see if we can do this. It should be pretty easy to do. Just work slowly. See how this is coming out here? Very nice. So we have a nice little log. It's not too perfect. Just shove the edges in. And then just take a nice sharp paring knife. You're just going to cut it to little slices like this. You can flatten them out a little bit on the cookie doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, this one pinched a little will look neat. So now we're going to parchment line a paper, put those on. The oven is at 325, and we're just going to keep going here. I love using the parchment paper. Helps clean up. You don't have to grease the pan. You're not cleaning. So just put these onto a pan about at least an inch apart. Yeah, so these will have a neat look to them. So we're going to do one more, add that, and then we'll make the tea cookies. So let me finish up with the dates, and then we'll be right back. Okay, so we have the rest of the dates, pinwheel, ginger cookies there. Now I'm going to show you, this is the way that I do the chocolate chip cookies. I put all the dough and I make a log out of it. And this is much stiffer than the chocolate chip cookie recipe, so you don't have to really refrigerate it. But I actually freeze the chocolate chip cookie recipe. And then I slice it into big chunks. I keep the chunks in the freezer, if you've seen that video. And then all you do is heat up the chunks anytime you want some nice warm cookies. And pretty much I keep all my cookies in the freezer anyway. Keeps them fresh longer, keeps them out of sight. And so now we have a nice log, and this will just make your life easier. We're just going to slice these so that way they're kind of equal size, and it's a lot neater than trying to make little balls out of them, which you can when you do this. This one will be a little bit bigger. So then we're just going to add them to the pan like this, and I'm just giving them a little bit of a shape here. So now you have some nice little tea cookies as well. So you can make them into a ball like this too. It's just easier when you do it on a log. All right. So we're going to bake some of these, and then we'll be back to check them out. And wow, I love pausing this. So everything is cleaned up, and that's what you learn when you're cooking. Make sure you're keeping organized. Now those cookies, what makes them so amazing is those warming spices. You're not going to miss it. There's not a ton of sugar in them. It's going to be crispy and have so much flavor. Like I said, they go really great with the dark chocolate vegan gelato. So next video that I'm going to be doing, stay tuned, is going to be about teff. Teff, it's the smallest grain in the world. It's the grain of Ethiopia. And it's not high in carbohydrates, 8 grams. And then you've got 2 grams of fiber, which means you've got 6 grams. When you're doing a sugar conversion, it's total carbs minus your fiber divided by 5. So you see the sugar conversion is really low in this, and you're going to get 5 grams of protein. So you can understand why. And these countries where certain grains are very important to their dietary needs. So this is really nice and warming, especially when there's so much cooling things. I'm eating a lot of cooling smoothies, cooling foods. It's nice to have something warm in the body. And what I like to put with it, Aurora brand has really great apple juice infused cherries and cranberries. So that'll be the next video. And those cookies will be out in just a little bit here, and we'll be right back to check them out. Okay, 15 minutes on 325, and they are done. They're just going to cool here. I'm going to store them in the freezer. So you can see they're a little bit darker than the original ones that I made. And so now perfect for tea, for a little coffee, for a little espresso, or like I said, with a gelato. And then this is the difference with the date inside. So these will be a little bit sweeter, a little bit softer. Great variation, one recipe. So thanks for staying to the end to check it out. And yeah, you can check out my website if you're interested in the cookbook. You can either get it through my inthekitchenwithkk.com or simplecookingforvitality.com. You'll see all the information. Have an awesome day. Stay sweet.